For one last time this season, I will say, I did not expect to be making a video about X-Men 97 this week. And that's not to say I did not expect to be making it today. I just didn't expect to be making weekly recap videos about X-Men 97 9 weeks ago, whenever the show started. Like, this is so much better than it had any right to be. And we're going to be talking about episode 10 of season 1, Tolerance is Extinction, part 3 in this video, but also I want to give big picture thoughts real quick. This show is really good. It wasn't perfect. There were definitely some plot lines that get away from it, but the quality of the animation was really something. Like, it was unlike anything Marvel has produced, and honestly it hangs up there with some of the best animation we've seen on TV this decade, mixed with the fact that the stories were very good. They moved a little quickly, but they were fun, and they drew from stories that comic fans have always wanted to see, and not just in the way like, oh, they did the thing that we wanted, but they did the thing that we wanted, and they did it in the way that showed people who didn't really know anything about it, like, oh, that's why this is cool. You know, they brought the spirit of Genosha and all of that from the Aegis from Extinction storyline. They brought that into the show in a way that people that knew it was coming, or people that saw that as like, oh, this is we're doing Genosha, we're like, oh, this is gonna be something. And people that didn't know that were like, wow, that Genosha thing was something. I should maybe check out that comic book or get more information on that. So that's great. That right there, awesome. Just the idea that people are like excited about the X-Men again, and people are now thinking like, all right, so what is Marvel going to do with all these mutants? Like, they're going to show up in the MCU. Besides Deadpool and Wolverine, there are clearly going to be others. And now I'm thinking like that might be the new best part of the MCU, just because like the X-Men have the juice. Like, there's something special about them. It's the characters, it's the designs, it's the powers, it's the storylines. There's just something really good about them. Like, I think if you compare the X-Men, and I'm not saying I don't like the Eternals. I mean, I'm not a humongous fan. I think they're fine. But like, you compare the X-Men to the Eternals, and it's just not, they're not on the same level. And I think there's a lot of teams and characters that Marvel has tried to turn into something. Some have worked, some haven't, where it's like, yeah, you know, Ant-Man's got some juice. He's good. He's not bad. But like, that's not X-Men. And when the X-Men show up, it's like, that's why they're the king. That's why they are, and always have been, one of the biggest names in comics. They've been one of the biggest sellers in the history of comics. The movies were the first big blockbuster movies, along with like the Spider-Man movies, and to a lesser extent Blade in the 2000s, that started this whole superhero craze. And just like, they deserve respect. Also, big picture, obviously, Bo DeMayo has done a great job. I'm also just really happy to see how active Bo DeMayo has been on Twitter. I'm not talking about those bodybuilding posts. I'm talking about answering fan questions, saying this episode was inspired by this, and here's your homework assignment for next week. Because like a show like this, when they finish Secret Invasion, and again, I don't want to use this to beat up on Secret Invasion, but when they asked the people in Secret Invasion when Rhodey got captured, it certainly seemed like they didn't know or hadn't decided yet. So the answers on Twitter like, I don't know. But now you ask Bo DeMayo, like, hey, where are these two characters? We kind of referenced them a couple times, but where are they? Bo says, oh, they're over here doing this. And we're not going to show you that, although we've kind of referenced it once or twice in the show. So you know that. But like that, it's just so clear that Bo DeMayo and the entire team know so much about these characters in terms of, you know, understanding what makes them so special about the original show and in the comics, but also like have a sense for what is happening in this universe, the scope of it, in a way that's really impressive. Not to say they didn't have that with Secret Invasion, but I guess with Secret Invasion, it seems like Marvel kind of knew this might not work, and we don't want to make anything too final. We might need to change things. But with 97, they were like, this works. And let's just let these people say whatever they want. Like, if they say these people were in space, I guess they were in space. I don't know what to tell you. By the way, any squeaking is because I'm playing with these because I can't help myself. They're fidgeting. This is a toy. I love the toys. I have plenty of them back there. I would love to have all of them, but they cost money. Marvel, if you want to send me them, Hasbro, whoever has them, please send them all to me. I will put them here because I love them. But okay, Tolerance is Extinction, part 3, the finale of this episode. So we got a lot going on here. I would say there's maybe 3 parallel storylines going on. There's everything that's going on in Professor X's and Magneto's mind palace, you know, their mind bar, I guess. There's everything that's going on the space station, everything that's going on Earth. I'm going to cover them in the order of how important and like complicated they are. So we'll start with Earth. And the Galapagos Islands, because Mr. Sinister is a fan of Charles Darwin's. They were contemporaries, and he decided to buy, I guess, the island where Darwin found turtles and make that his home base for memories. I like that. We got a lot of cool stuff here. We're going through all the final stages of Bastion, upgrading himself, getting more kind of gnarly, more tubes, lots of tubes everywhere. That's never a good sign for your robot bad guy. And this is reminiscent of different looks Bastion has had in the comics. I think all of these are cool looking. Mr. Sinister, still just kind of there. I do think it's funny, like, Sinister is part of this plan. He is making things happen, but it doesn't feel like Bastion ever really needed him. Like, there's not much that Bastion doesn't seem capable of doing on his own. Bastion definitely could have gotten the Sentinels going, I think. Started up a Master Mold. He's part Sentinel. Of course he could have. I assume, like, it doesn't seem that unusual. So, like, the Wild Sentinel, there's that bit where Trask was talking to Sinister, and he's like, you made me do this, and you're kind of like, oh, Sinister's the mastermind that did all the stuff with the Wild Sentinel. And I do think that is supposed to be the explanation. I just think Bastion could have done that himself. I don't see why not. And also, just like, I like that Bastion immediately turned on Mr. Sinister. I will say, I like this version of Mr. Sinister because it is very much the version from the original show. Like the design, I miss the campiness that we've come to expect from Sinister from comics, especially recently. I just one more time I want to say, if we ever get a Sinister in live action, and we do this with some of the X-Men, we're all over the place with this, but him specifically, he is British. He grew up in like Victorian London. His name is Nathaniel Essex, and like I said, hung out with Charles Darwin. And, you know, he lived in different places. I'm sure he, spent time in America. But, like, this guy can be so British and, like, fancy and, like Kenneth Branagh. Like, when I read Sinister, he kind of reads like a more evil Gilderoy Lockhart. And I think if we ever want to reboot him, I don't want us to keep doing evil Dracula Man. I think we can start from scratch and go, oh, this guy's British. Anyway, because it seemed like John Hamm was maybe going to play him at one point. And it's like, he can, but like, there's no good reason why he should. I think part of what I like about Sinister is he feels old. Like, he feels like a remnant of the past. And a lot of the great mutant villains come from the past. Even if Magneto, you say, Holocaust and all that, that's the past. Or at least, it always has been since the X-Men have existed. It's a more recent past. But like, if you look further, Apocalypse, Selene, Exodus, these are mutants who are historical figures. And I think as much as you can be a historical figure from America, I don't know, just setting a character like that in Victorian England, I think is cool. That's just me. This is all just me. I like that he died. He got his DNA ripped out. That was cool. Yeah, it was cool to see him explode. I enjoyed it. I don't know, it was cool. So a couple of characters over the course of X-Men 97 seemed to get away from the group. Like, there were characters that the writers really focused on that I think makes sense. Cyclops and Jean, because of the Nathan thing and the Madeline Pryor thing, which I loved. Rogue and Storm both got big character development arcs. One of the characters that does seem like got away from him was Morph. Specifically because Morph didn't have anything to do with fighting Mr. Sinister, really. Morph just was there, and they were able to be sassy Mr. Sinister, which was good. But I did kind of expect there would be some big moment, especially because Morph was tormented by Mr. Sinister. And even in the intro, there was that bit where Sinister flows around and goes, ah, ha, ha, ha. Like, I don't know. But it almost felt like, well, obviously the Jean is more important than Morph. And Jean and Sinister have way more going on. And yeah, it felt like, I think early on, a lot of people were saying, like, feels like these characters are the cool ones, and these characters are also there. And Morph was always one of the also theirs. And, he kind of was here too, which is fine. The X-Men's full position players, not a huge deal. Morph is for cameos, that's the rules. A couple Morph cameos this week. Sauron for a second to like glide down. Mr. Fantastic was the other big one. Obviously, Morph transformed into other people, but those were the two, I'd say, Morph cameos. What else? I don't know. Still like Bastion. Basically, Bastion's cool. Theo James did a great job. I think he's a very good voice actor. And like, there's a lot of times where you bring the celebrity, and they're not amazing. And I think this time they did a good job. And apparently he's got a big presence in the Castlevania show, I believe. So yeah, I'd like to see more of him in the future. I do think there is one actor, I'm not going to single him out, who I don't love in this show. And I don't know. I just hope if they're going to be in the next season, get better. Maybe better direction. If it feels like what's needed. Just because there's line reads that throughout the season have felt off. And it's just strange. And, I think a lot of the voice acting on this show has been so great that I just wish that everything was at that standard. But again, it's something that can be fixed with direction, I'm sure. But yeah, really don't have too much to say about that. It was cool when Bastion ripped off Cable's arm and started beating him with it. I like when characters do that, and they turned into those wings. Now, I know Bastion had similar wings in the comics, but when I saw those wings, the first thing I thought was those look like Onslaught shoulder pads. And every, sense in my body was telling me we're getting Onslaught stuff. I'm very glad we didn't, because I don't really like Onslaught, and I think it's a cool design that doesn't really do much. But that was my first oh right, that's what's happening at the end of this one. And I'm pretty happy with the direction they ended up going. Let's talk about Earth, I guess. In general, we got a lot of Earth cameos. So, and I don't want this to just be like, hey, did you see this guy? But there were a lot of those guys. So we obviously saw Cloak and Dagger for the first time. That's kind of cool. And I don't know if the first time in this universe ever, but I don't remember them being a big part of the other shows. We saw Spider-Man and Mary Jane and Flash Thompson. Peter Parker, I guess, and Mary Jane and Flash Thompson. I know there's something, I'm not a big Spider-Man fan. I believe in the end of Spider-Man, the animated series, there's some sort of mystery about Mary Jane, and this happens after that, which would suggest that that is solved. Spider-Man found Mary Jane, that's great. Must have been a real bummer, like, I just found Mary Jane and now we're gonna get asteroided, but that didn't happen. We saw Captain America, we saw Iron Man in the classic Iron Man armor, that looked really cool. We got T'Chaka, King T'Chaka, and Doctor Strange performing surgery. But the big one, the one that everybody's probably gonna be talking about, is Matt Murdock, Daredevil, showed up. And Daredevil, I know, was in, I believe, the Spider-Man show, if not others. Speaking of people we've never seen before, we saw the Winter Guard, Crimson Dynamo, Dark Star, and Omega Red, I guess, but whatever, the Russian guys. Love Dark Star. She's someone that's going to show up in my Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants video pitch thing. So I'm glad to see her here. And she is a mutant. She has manipulation of the Dark Force energy. So cool. She's here. But Daredevil, when people are getting attacked by evil sentinels, or, Doctor Strange is performing surgery and doing stuff, it's like, cool. I'm glad they showed us that. When Daredevil is using his superpowers and his special billy club to clothesline 3 looters, I'm like, hey, Daredevil, we got bigger problems, buddy. I'm sure there's murders happening now. And also, there's a big asteroid that's going to crush everybody. You should deal with that. I know you can't do anything about the asteroid, but I don't know, just go give somebody a hug or something. Let the looters steal their bags of whatever it was, and probably big TVs they were stealing. But that's Daredevil for you. He just cannot accept any crime. And, good for him, I guess. I think they already made the illusion Captain America is the cop. And that's what Rogue called Captain America. But there's Daredevil and hey, listen, I know, it's chaos in the streets, but that's somebody's property, sir. And I'm gonna have to, I don't know, arrest you or whatever Daredevil does. Just beat you unconscious and make you put it back? Because what's that guy gonna do? Is Daredevil gonna take it and put it back in the store? And then somebody else is gonna get it? I don't know, Daredevil, get your priorities in order. You got 8 girlfriends, and half of them are probably dead, because that's how it usually goes. But just call one of them or something, because it's clearly stuff is bad. It's kind of like that line in the Kevin Feige gave notes for Amazing Spider-Man 2 that they didn't use, which all would have been good. And one of them was just, don't show New Yorkers looting. No reason to do it. It makes people seem jerky. It makes people, it's just an unlikable thing. And, there's other things you could show people doing. You can show people stealing stuff with a gun, and then it's well, Daredevil, good thing those people didn't get shot. But I don't know, these people just had a TV. Maybe that's their TV, and they're just I gotta get this as far away from my house as possible. Everyone's looting. Oh, good, it's Daredevil, he'll help me. Dead. Another thing that happened on Earth. No Mystique. We didn't get a confirmation of that, so technically I guess Val Cooper could be Mystique, but we've never seen her in this show. We got a couple name checks when Rogue and Kurt were talking. Name checks that don't even kind of gel with what's going on in the comics right now in a way that's funny. But I did expect this episode for her to be Mystique, or for somebody to be Mystique, or for Mystique to, do kind of what they do at the end of the first X-Men movie, where they show up as Senator Kelly and the eyes are yellow, and we're oh good, Mystique's got that. Or we're oh damn, Mystique's got that. That's bad. But they never did anything with her. I'm fine with that. I think the Val Cooper character is interesting. I don't know why she has to wear the Bastion uniform. Mr. Sinister doesn't have to wear the Bastion uniform. I assume she could just wear her clothes, unless she wants to wear the Bastion uniform. But and I get that she's secretly on Team Bastion, but I don't know. That just felt a little weird to me. Because if she's on Team Bastion, why'd she go to Genosha? But if she's not on Team Bastion, that's fine too. If she just showed up and was hey Bastion, you're doing bad guy stuff, I'm doing bad guy stuff, let's team up, that's great. But then you don't have to put on the t-shirt. I don't know. Also, it's not like Bastion had extra shirts lying around, because she had a dress on. Did he make that for her? The Prime Sentinels seem to be able to like manifest their own clothing because they're Sentinels and like they're made of, but she's not. So would she just like cut one of his onesies up? I don't know. When the president was deciding to nuke asteroid M, do the Magneto protocols, which is a different thing in the comics, but has the same effect kind of. I loved that he has a paper in his file with Magneto's picture and those stats that are on every like Marvel.com page of like strength, speed, agility, intelligence. So funny. I don't know who we're measuring that against in that universe, but I just like that they have that. As if the president's like, Magneto, is he any good? Whoa, speed is a 7. All right, nuke him. But whatever. Okay, let's talk about the Professor. There were more than 2 or 3 moments in the Professor Magneto thing, and I don't like to do this as a thing. Like, I've never been a big shipper, unless we're talking about Magic and Kitty. They are a couple, but everybody else, it's like, I don't care, you know. But in this episode, I'm like, man, there were like a couple times when Professor X and Magneto were talking, they were very close, and like Professor X would get closer and lean in, and I'm like, are they gonna kiss? Professor X just had a girlfriend or something. I guess they're broken up, but this feels a little fast, Professor X. Not that I'm against it, but there was a couple of moments like that where I was like, okay, are they gonna do that? And if they did that, oh my God, people got so damn angry. Jordan Peterson would have had a heart attack. There would be so many thumbnails. Oh, there'd be a sea of thumbnails a mile wide. Basically, like, Professor X and Magneto were having their little talk on the asteroid like very early. I'm pretty sure somebody said like, such psychic penetration risks turning our evil spirits into one guy, basically, and that would be a bad guy to deal with. And it was just like, that was so much Onslaught on the nose that I was like, oh, maybe they're not doing Onslaught. I had an Onslaught meter going pretty much for me throughout the entire episode, and that was the first swing away from Onslaught. I thought all the fights against Bastion were great, very cool. It's cool to fight Bastion because he's a big, strong guy with lots of powers, but our X-Men are pretty strong. Rogue beating Bastion up was great. Nightcrawler fighting Bastion was terrifying. I don't like it, by the way, when they do that. If you're a speedster, or a teleportster, or whatever we're calling Nightcrawler, don't try to kill the bad guy by yourself. You can't. You just can't. You can teleport him around if that's your strat. That's not terrible. But like, just trying to hit him with a wrench? I'm sorry, Rogue punched him onto the moon or something, and you're just like, maybe if I hit him with a wrench 5 or 6 times, and then, you know, we've just seen this happen so many times. Every time there's a speedster in one of these things, they try it. You know, Flash does it. Quicksilver does it in one of the movies. Red Rush does it in Invincible. It works for like 3 punches and then they catch you and maybe kill you. In the comics, Bastion did kill Nightcrawler in that way. So I was very glad when they didn't kill him that way, but I was also like, man, they knew what they were doing. By the way, I was going to mention this before. If it looks like I was crying, I was, but not because of the X-Men show. I watched a stand-up special at around 1:30, so like an hour and a half before the X-Men show started, and not only do I have one of those big crying headaches, but I was crying laughing for the entire time. I cannot say I could recommend this to everybody because it's not for everybody, but it was so funny. It's so funny. It's exactly my thing, but again, not for everybody. And I'm not even gonna say here, but if you want to figure out what it is, go to my Twitter account. And I tweeted about it like right before I started watching the show. Oh, one thing from Magneto. When Magneto's in the bar and he sees the boat and he starts thinking about Rogue and he's like, Rogue, I love her so much, kind of, or whatever. And Professor X is like, yes, Rogue. Rogue's your favorite. You know who else is on that boat? Your 3 biological children or whatever, Magneto. Maybe you care about them a teeny tiny bit. This is why they're all off in space doing whatever. Is because you don't even, like Rogue and those other shadowy figures who could even say who they are, we'll never know. Like, even if you just like Rogue and Polaris, the one I like, or whichever one is the one he likes now. Whichever ones are the ones that count, because they're constantly retconning that. And I love that they put them on the boat. Magneto couldn't even bother to visualize their faces. He was too busy thinking about his ex-girlfriend that he hooked up with kind of recently. So, cool. Speaking of kissing and hugging and stuff, did anybody else think that the finale was going to end with Bastion just getting a big old hug from all the X-Men? and that would be like, aw, and then they'd all just get nuked or something, and like that would be a new problem. But like, I liked that they tried to be friends with Bash, so that was great. But just like for a second, I was like, are we gonna hug it out? That's not, but maybe it is. I don't know, maybe it'll be great. Kind of glad they didn't. That's it. I like that they made Bastion kind of folksy and weird. Like, they used the word nifty a couple times. I think that was cool. So yeah, I think my favorite line of this episode, at least one of the ones that's most memorable, was Bastion's, "There's just one pickled deer. They'd rather die than have kids like us." Because I do think that is kind of an interesting, like, not even counter argument, but just like, that's the problem, man. We give them so many chances, and they just want to kill us every time. And why the struggle of the X-Men is so tough is because sometimes they make progress, but the pendulum swings back. I thought that was pretty cool, and I just think his delivery on that was great. I like the whole his face getting ripped off thing. I will say we talk about things that seem to kind of get away from him. The other thing that definitely got away from him this season was Roberto, Sunspot, everything that he was doing. I didn't dislike him. I don't think his character didn't work or anything, and I think having like a POV character like him made a lot of sense. And this isn't me just being salty because his dad wasn't secretly the villain or something, but I was just like a little confused because like he had this arc that felt like he was just kind of warming up to the mutant thing, gets betrayed by his family immediately, goes on the Magneto team, which is a choice, especially because Magneto is trying to destroy the Earth at this moment, the thing that you used to at least have some things you liked on. But then he's like, nope, I'm a bad guy now. He immediately switches sides, and then he's kind of back to being cool. And just like, I don't know, he was so all over the place. I think it just, if anything, it felt like setting up, more New Mutant stuff. Maybe he's one of the New Mutants he is one of the New Mutants that wasn't on the show before. I believe every other main New Mutant, maybe, except for, I don't know about Doug, but definitely Magic, kind of. I think Danny, Karma for sure, and Cannonball for sure, and Wolfsbane for sure were all in the original animated series. Some were in teeny tiny cameos, but either way, it does feel like that's what we're doing, is a New Mutants Generation X kind of thing. That makes sense, because so what we got at the end of the episode, the X-Men saved everybody from the asteroid, and I won't fault people for being a little confused. I was a little confused too, but they were like, we gotta push the asteroid away from Earth before it destroys Earth, because it's gonna crash into Earth and destroy Earth. And I'm like, yeah, that would be bad. And then they do that, and I'm like, good, you guys fixed it, hooray. And then it just explodes and kind of disappears. And in my head, I was like, what was that? And I don't think we got an incredible explanation for it, because obviously our team got pulled into different time periods. And even like when Bishop is explaining it, he says like something or somebody pulled our team back in time or whatever. But like in the moment, I was like, oh, right, that gravity thing was also going to explode and like would have double destroyed the Earth, I guess. So it's good that they got that out of the way. But that's why for me it became a suicide mission, even though there definitely seemed like there was a point where like Jean and Storm were like in Manhattan, and then they pushed it away and Magneto had it taken care of. And I'd be like, you guys go hang out, grab some shawarma. That's what we do here in Marvel stuff now. And you can meet the other ones when they are done. Speaking of asteroid stuff, we got the Morph interaction with Wolverine that I think was another thing where like I think a lot of Morph stuff felt like it was cut or maybe not decided on, because it seems like, and I do think there was plenty of subtext for this, Morph is in some way like in love with Wolverine or something. And that little Jean moment was that being manifest in that like form that was acceptable to Wolverine, but it was more saying their true feelings. I think that's interesting, but I guess like as a Wolverine fan and as a fan of these X-Men movies, I'm fine with less Wolverine. I don't need a bazillion Wolverines in this, and their arc can be kind of shallow. I mean, they had the thing with Jean, and that's more than enough. They're there to do big cool fights, but also this Morph thing. By the end of it, I, as someone who had spent a lot of time with Morph and Wolverine, had that thought about Morph. I was like, man, Morph really wants to get Wolverine. Good for Morph. But then I was also like, wait, does Wolverine? Have we kind of established that at all? Like, it seems like maybe that's something Morph doesn't think is that out of the ordinary, and they kind of mess around a little bit. But like, as far as Wolverine backstory and like kind of character development this season, we've only seen the Jean stuff. I guess that's why the Morph stuff feels kind of weird, because if this was flipped and it was a love triangle, the Jean Morph Wolverine love triangle, where like Morph loves Wolverine, Wolverine loves Jean, kind of likes Morph, and then That's tricky. I would be fine with that, but we never got any real explanation of like Wolverine's feelings there, so that the triangle doesn't really work, and like that moment for me felt a little flat. So yeah, I do think like besides Bishop, who just left, and that's fine. I don't think every character needs to be here the whole time. It did feel like the focus early was on Morph and Sunspot, and it quickly became clear that the show wasn't quite sure what to do with them, and that's fine. You know, not everybody needs to be the main character. I would say Beast also didn't get that much character development, but you know, I guess with Morph and Sunspot, it's like they're new, or at least Morph is new. The idea of Morph being a main player on the X-Men on the show, like that was something that, you know, grand opening, grand closing, like episodes 1 or 2, and then they come back later, but like they were not a main character, and obviously Sunspot was not on the show at all. It felt like this season for the Roberto story could have been plotted out over 13 episodes, and we just missed the 3 between when he gets arrested and his mom gives him up, and when he becomes so radicalized that he's willing to interrupt Scott in team meetings, and which already feels like a bridge too far for the new guy who just got a uniform yesterday. But more than that, go Magneto and let the Earth be destroyed. I also think maybe this kind of shows the trouble with Sunspot. I don't think we need to see Sunspot come to the X-Mansion for the first time. Like, we need to see him knock on the door and Jubilee's like, oh, Roberto, you made it, cool. I didn't know you'd even be here. And he'd be like, well, you know, I took you up on your offer or whatever. I think you're so great. I don't think we need to see that. But I do think as a moment for that character would have been nice. And we did skip that. We just, there was an episode where he just was there and sitting on the couch with the mutants. And you're like, was he even there at the last shot? I don't think he was, but I guess he's here now. Cool. You know, I don't know. I'm not trying to nitpick, not unlike my podcast, Mostly Nitpicking, where we pick apart pieces of pop culture exclusively by the details. I think I could do that for this show forever. But like, that's part of the fun of the X-Men. There's stuff you can nitpick, like the time travel mechanisms and all that nonsense. And then there's stuff like that where it's like, maybe stop sending Wolverine up to fight Magneto. Like, and I've heard people make the explanation like, no, Magneto, and I think this is interesting, but I don't think it holds up. The explanation being Wolverine went up to Asteroid M because Professor X or Scott or something wanted Wolverine to kill Magneto. And he's like, there's only like 2 guys on this team that are going to kill Magneto, and one of them's Rogue, and she left, so it's going to have to be this guy. Not that Rogue wanted to kill Magneto at that moment, but just like Rogue seems like she's in a killing mood. But if someone said this, like, oh, Magneto would never take away Wolverine's agency because that's so important to him. So even if he has this big adamantium skeleton, this Magneto wouldn't use it and just use that to keep Wolverine at an arm's length throughout the entire fight. And I'm like, kind of, I guess, but like, why not? If he's gonna use metal to trap everybody, why not use the metal that's already in him to trap him from the start? Like, it's not like you're trying to make him your slave or something. You're just keeping him away so we can't rip your helmet off. And even after then, when he gets the helmet off, Magneto throws him off. And it's like, well, yeah, that's what you do to Wolverine. And I'm sure there's other examples of Magneto doing that to other characters and doing that to Wolverine in the original series. That's part of the trickiness about the show. I like that they are getting into a lot of these comic storylines, and I like that they did the Wolverine gets his adamantium skeleton ripped out, but like in the end, that didn't make a humongous difference. Like, sure, it motivated Professor X to mind crush Magneto, but it seemed like he wanted to do that anyway in that moment. So I don't think that's that unreasonable. So you get those moments where it's like, it would be cool if he was here. This was happening to him, but there's not a lot of follow-up to that, and, you know, I don't know. That's just a little weird. Let's talk about the board, and let's talk about the finale. It's a bit where they showed all the people. So we have the board with all the other characters that might show up in the future. These seem to be potential replacements for the X-Men, and some of them make a lot of sense. Some of them seem absolutely insane. Start with the ones that make sense. Colossus. Since he appears to have been an X-Men, you have a picture of him in his costume, which you never wore in the show, but whatever. So in the year that passed between the end of season, whatever, 4 or 5 or whatever the last season of the show was, and the beginning of this season, Colossus was on the team. Yes, definitely get him. Magic. Also, based on Morph's look and this picture now, she definitely existed. She was on the New Mutant. She was wearing the same outfit that Sunspot's wearing, so they definitely get her too. Archangel, I guess. If he's alive, who knows what his status is, but yeah, if you want to call Archangel, sure. Havoc? 100%. Get Havoc. He's pretty much already an X-Men. We know he's on X Factor at this point. Same with Iceman, who is also in that X Factor episode. Like, he's an original X-Men. He's in the picture. So definitely get him. And like, he's not like Archangel where there's all kinds of stuff going on and like lots of drama. And if it's an Apocalypse storyline the next season, it's like, oh, we don't want to get Archangel involved. But with Iceman, it's like 100%. You call him. Wanda and Pietro off-world doing Kree war stuff. Fine. You know, I don't think Pietro would have wanted to join, but I don't know. Like, I don't think Forge could handle Pietro, I guess is my thing. And Forge, you know what? Speaking of that, Forge was part of X Factor. Where's Wolfsbane on that list? And Strong Guy and Multiple Man. They better be off doing X Factor investigations or something, because the fact that you did not include them in this Forge is quite an insult, considering you put Quicksilver on the team, who like never got a uniform, doesn't really work well with anybody on planet Earth. As a Strong Guy fan, I just have to say, Forge, get it together. You got some time. You got a whole year or whatever until next season comes out to take a couple of pictures off and put Strong Guy at least on. Like, for example, Dust. I think she's a fine choice to add to this team. She's from the Academy X generation, which is even beyond Generation X. So there's plenty of Generation X characters. Chamber, Monet, Skin, that didn't show up in this, or at least I can't remember them having shown up. So I think it's interesting that they did Dust. I guess like it's a very recognizable face, and we did see her in episode 5. I just wonder, like, has she ever been on the X-Men before? Why is she that high up on Forge's radar that she takes a spot that could have gone to Strong Guy? Other one, Emma Frost. Absolutely, get Emma Frost. She should be there already, as far as I'm concerned. But whatever, she's busy doing Hellfire Club stuff. Shadowcat next to her, Kitty, whatever, you know, whatever she's calling herself in that time. I would love to see Shadowcat on this X-Men. I think Shadowcat's like, she's, you know, I don't know. She's maybe my favorite X-Men. I think Magneto's my favorite character in comics. But I think Kitty is my favorite member of the X-Men, if that makes sense, even though Magneto has been an X-Men. The last member of this board, which Forge, you have to, maybe Dust, maybe you're just like, she's great, I met her, I love having her on this team, she's got a really cool power, gonna be super useful. Let's get Dust in here. Also, we want to get some younger kids in to like mentor. Exodus? Forge, what are you thinking? We're getting Exodus? Yes, I know he loves to dance and stuff. You know who else loves to dance? Multiple Man, your friend from earlier. But whatever. What is this team gonna be? Let's assume he gets everybody from the board. Emma Frost, I assume, is in charge. Emma Frost or Bobby seem to be the most senior members. Maybe Havoc, but Havoc's a mess. You never want Havoc to be in charge of a team. Leading a team composed of Colossus Magic, Shadowcat, Dust, and Exodus. Like, again, I've said this before about Exodus. It feels like Battle Beast showing up in that episode of Invincible, where it's like, you don't belong. Because you are. Everybody else here is like some guy who's like a Russian guy who got superpowers. Well, you, sir, are a French knight from the 1700s who has survived throughout history and is super freaky and religious and stuff. Like, I don't know. He's just Forge. I don't think it's going to work. Also, I think if I were Bishop, I'd be a little insulted that I wasn't on the board, considering I was an X-Man a couple weeks ago. And like, yeah, it's going to be hard to get people to, you know, come through time and stuff, but like, I don't know, at least put me on the board. Let's put me on the board instead of Quicksilver, a guy we all hate. I like that on Little Radio, in that bit, they mentioned Santo Marco, which is a fake, like, you know, Marvel Universe South American country, which I believe is where the first story with the Brotherhood of Mutants took place. And they return there from time to time. But like, I thought that was cute. I think I would have preferred it, to be honest, if we just got the tease of the new team, and maybe Forge had assembled them by then. It was like, all right, new X-Men, let's go protect the world. And like, we didn't even think that the other X-Men were going to show up, or we were like, no inkling that they were going to be there. Like, don't get me wrong, I like to see the characters and times and places we saw, and I could even, you know what, I could even see Bishop showing up right as the team, you know, this Emma Frost and Exodus team gets done, and then they, you know, like, he's like, all right, everybody go get coffee or whatever, and then Forge sees Bishop, and Bishop's like, by the way, the X-Men are stuck in time and space, and then we gotta go get them. But I didn't think I didn't see where they were, because, hey, we didn't see where all of them were. Morph and Wolverine on the verge of death, and Storm are still unaccounted for, I believe. But we saw that some of them are in ancient Egypt doing apocalypse stuff. And I had to explain this. I think that is the like celestial, machine ship thing in the middle of that big city. That's what gives Apocalypse his powers. I don't know why he's sword fighting guys on the center of town, if that exists or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember how that works. Like, I thought he getting that was what gave him superpowers, but maybe Ramatut has it and he has to give it from him, which we could be doing Kang stuff. Part of me is like, hey, who pulled them through time? Could have been Kang. I would be kind of bummed if that's who it was, if it was Marvel Synergy Kang, but I don't think it is. And then we saw that the Summerses went to the far future, again, the end of the 3000s, so right about Kang times, where Ascani, who we know is Rachel Summers, pulled them there seemingly to mentor young Cable, which is cute. And I like that we're referencing her. She's important. She's good. But yeah, I would have been fine with not seeing that. I think they could have ended with the Apocalypse tease. Now, I don't know in universe where we left Apocalypse, because we didn't see him at all this season, outside of like the intro. And he does appear to exist. And like, to be fair, he is one of those mutants who is notoriously difficult to kill. I like that they teased Remy as Death. Everybody kind of saw that one coming, and that's good. And you figure he could get some of the other Genoshan mutants that died on Genosha to be his other horsemen if he wants to continue with that. And if you're just looking at ones that he could pick from that would be kind of interesting, Madeline Pryor died on Genosha, it seems like. Banshee certainly seemed to die on Genosha, and I believe Banshee has been a horseman before. Who else? I mean, Callisto, but who cares? Not like who cares, but like, I don't know. I don't really have strong feelings about Callisto. Leech apparently did die. We never figured out what happened, by the way, with Bastion and Magneto. You kind of expected, and I talked about this, a lot of people did, that it's like, oh, maybe Leech depowered Magneto. That's why the Sentinel didn't kill him, and Magneto's hiding somewhere, but that's not it. Apparently, the Sentinel killed everybody, including vaporized Leech in front of Magneto, but didn't kill Magneto, and Bastion got Magneto without anyone seeing. Again, I'm nitpicking, but there's just, I kind of expected there would be some other explanation besides just, he's gone now. So I would say Banshee, I don't want to say is a shoo-in, but I think it's very possible. I don't remember if Sebastian Shaw is fully dead, but he's kind of fun. I don't know. I don't think he's as fun as a Horseman of Apocalypse as like Gambit, Banshee, Madeline Pryor. I don't even think Madeline Pryor's that interesting, but she is there. Oh, also, Exodus was at the place when it exploded, so I guess he survived, which good for him. But you saw characters that were about almost dead? I don't know. Those two, though, feel like locks. He was not dead, strong guy. He survived this whole season. Great for him. Didn't end up going to war, like he said, but he did pick up that one crate of stuff. So that's better than I was expecting. And he had lines. So he got paid extra on that day. Overall, I know I've been very nitpicky, but like, the show was great, and it gave X-Men fans so much. Like, even if it's not the best, tightest narrative of all time, it gives you so much to enjoy, to see, and not to see like in a like, oh, I recognize those guys, which it does plenty of that, but just like to see in terms of like, here's this little storyline. This is gonna be a fun little storyline. It won't be as deep as maybe it is in the comics, but we're gonna get to enjoy it for a little bit and then move on. I think that's very good. I know for most people, the height of the series was Genosha. I can't argue with them. That it was the most like emotional episode and one of the most well animated, but I also think like feels clear to me the same way that there was someone on staff that was like, Bastion, we want you to be a little bit sexier. We want to get when you're shaving Magneto, we want that line to just smooth as butter. I do think that there was also someone who was like, listen, we have to do a Madeline Pryor episode. I don't care if it makes any sense. We're not even going to try to explain why she's the Goblin Queen. We're not going to do the demon that she makes a deal with or anything. But we want to put her in that outfit, have her do all her Goblin Queen stuff. We want Magneto to call her a Brimstone clone. We want to do this ridiculous, magical girl transformation. And I'm glad they did it because it was cool. And sometimes that's all you need from me. It's just, we're going to do this because it's cool. And it was cool. But yeah, it looks like we're in a point where we're kind of like at the end of the Onslaught era where the heroes have disappeared, and we're kind of at the end of the Outback era where the heroes have disappeared. So we're going to have other characters filling the power vacuum, which I think is great because it gives them, these other characters, space to be cool. And then we're going to have the X-Men doing their time stuff, which I'm a little bit less excited about, but could still be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if that is resolved by the end of episode 2 of next season. Like, I don't think that's going to be a full arc. I think we'll get a little bit of time with both of them. Bishop will get them, and then they'll just go back. If I have a wish list for things I want to see next season, Emma and Jubilee Generation X. That's like my main wish list. As much as I want to see magic and stuff, I do think part of the fun of this series can be moving forward at this pace. It's like, okay, we're at the 2000s now, and I think we would be overstepping if we went straight to Academy X, but I think we could do Generation X, and like that would feel pretty, I don't know, natural. And I'd just like to see some of those mutants who would never have gotten a chance on the original show. And all that being said, you know, the show's amazing. I really enjoy it. I think everybody did. I think it's something that people are going to be talking about for a while, and I think it'll be the new like gold standard for these, even though, and I kept saying I was going to make a video, and maybe I still will. I think What If Season 2 is very good, and I think that like between those two things, What If Season 2 and X-Men 97 Season 1, like Marvel Animation is crushing it. And assuming that we are able to get everything else kind of moving, yeah, I do think part of the fun of What If is it's made more fun by how much you're already enjoying the MCU, whereas X-Men 97 is almost the opposite of that. But like when the MCU gets going and it's like, oh, Captain America, that movie's fun, then maybe What If we'll see more rewarding. So yeah, overall, I, like many of the rest of you, was very happy with X-Men 97. And I have a lot of other X-Men stuff to talk about. Besides other older videos I've made, like I've fan casted lots and lots of the X-Men, and I've talked about my Deadpool 3 pitch, I have a couple of videos coming up that I think people that like the X-Men are probably going to enjoy. Like, for instance, working on a video now, some lessons that the MCU can learn from X-Men 97. But the big one is my next pitch video, which is the kind of video I do on my Nando V Movies channel. Will be a pitch for a Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants prequel movie that could be set in the MCU. Like, this is what, if they told me you get to write any X-Men character, we get any movie about them, could even be the X-Men, but like, even if it was, I would say, no, I want this. And the only restraint is like, we want it to kind of fit into the MCU. This is what I would give them. It is a Brotherhood of Mutants that you've never seen before, although a lot of the characters on it have at some points been on the Brotherhood of Mutants. It features just some fan favorites of mine. I think it's a really fun story. I'm very excited. I've finished writing it at this point, so we're in the recording and editing stage. I can't say exactly when this video will come out, but I will say all of my pitches, my casting videos that go up on Nando V Movies, those go up early on this video's sponsor, Nebula. So if you want to watch these videos before anybody else, people always ask, what's the best way to support the channel? Nebula. And it is the best way for both you to support the channel, but also for you to get cool stuff from the channel. Like, you get access to my Nando V Movies videos early before anybody else sees them. So whatever my next video is, right now it's a video that I love that'll be out soon called the Netflix movie that everybody watched by accident. That will go up on YouTube eventually, and then when that goes up on YouTube, boom, my next Nando V Movies video will be on Nebula. I have a feeling people have heard of Nebula by now, because if you're a fan of my channel, obviously I've talked about Nebula a lot, but there's a lot of other channels that are doing a lot of cool stuff with Nebula. Patrick Willems, Jesse Gender, Philosophy Tube, Abigail Thorne, like there's a lot of fun Nebula exclusives. We have a film like Division now. I've been working on writing some short films. My goal is to get them produced through Nebula. They've got all kinds of great game shows, obviously Jet Lag, but then there's another one coming out soon called The Getaway that's very fun. Can't really talk about it, but I'm not in it, but like I know what it is. I've talked to people and it seems really cool. Like, I don't want to make it super complicated because Nebula, it's a subscription streaming service. I helped to create it. I've been a part of it since the beginning. You get to watch all my videos on Nando V Movies and the Nando Cut, both channels. They go up there ad-free, and my Nando V Movies videos at least go up a full video cycle early. I would do that for the Nando Cut videos, but like this is an X-Men video that's going to come out the next day, so like it wouldn't really make sense here. Although I was working on something, trying, if I could get ahead on my Marvel Snap character profile videos, I might put them on Nebula early, since that is something I do pretty regularly. People seem to really enjoy them, and if you want to get, you know, a heads up, like it's like we know 2 or 3 months in advance who all these characters are, so it's possible. That might be what we do, but either way, if you are enjoying these videos and you want to see more, you want to see some Nebula exclusive videos I've made over the years, go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut. And you can sign up for Nebula. Usually a yearly subscription is around $50, but if you use my code TheNandoCut, you can get a yearly subscription for right around $2.50 a month. So it's like $30 a year. It is a great deal. Like I always tell people, just go to Nebula right now and just like check it out. You can poke around, look at the website, see what other creators you like that are there, see what other exclusive content we're working on. I guarantee there will be something you like on Nebula that you cannot find anywhere else. And one of those things very soon will be what is going to be, I think, quite long, Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants pitch video, which I'm so excited about. So again, it's go.nebula.tv/thenandocut. Thank you to everybody for watching this video, all of my X-Men recap videos. So I hope I'll see you on Nebula. Not that it's it's not a social media thing where I can see you, but I just mean I hope you'll use it and you'll enjoy it. You'll see me. This is I'm a big fan of Seth Meyers' corrections, and he always says, see me soon, because he doesn't see you, but you see him. So see me soon, hopefully on Nebula, and we'll talk soon.